Breaking news, we told you we'd show you when President Trump arrived at the Palace of Versailles. He has just pulled up in France. He will be attending a dinner with French President Emmanuel Macron to celebrate the United States' 250th birthday. President Macron and his wife Brigitte are standing by and waiting to greet President Trump. And just remember that this is the state of home for many a king of France, but it was Louis XIV, Louis XIV, the Sun King, who really added major bling to the Palace of Versailles. And of course, there's the Hall of Mirrors. There are so many beautiful rooms that just go on and on and on. But of course, we know what happened after that. We know that there was the French Revolution because the poor people were saying, this is too much. Unfair. But nonetheless, thank God it still survives because it is history. And here is President Trump pulling up. Shall we stay and watch him get out? Yeah, let's do it. And as we're watching, I can just tell you about the markets here. The Dow Jones Industrials is off the lows of the session, but still down about 529 points. The S&P down 92. The NASDAQ down 365 as the brand new Federal Reserve Chair, Kevin Warsh, came out and steadfastly refused to give any indication of longer-term vision about where interest rates will go. He did say that during the two-day Fed meeting, there really was only one discussion about Fed rate cuts. That looks like it's pretty much off the table, and the indication is that the better chance will be 2 rate hikes by the end of the year. Joining me now, as we watch the president greeted by the French first couple, is former TD Ameritrade chairman and CEO Joe Moglia. Any analogies you can make between Versailles and all that's just happened when it comes to inflation?
Yeah, it's obviously difficult for me to compete with the president getting out of a car. Okay, that's a tough one.
Hey, don't undersell yourself, dude.
Well, you know, you talked about the Knicks earlier?
Yeah.
The Knicks parade, I believe, is in the morning. So you could go to the parade and still be here in the afternoon.
Okay. All right. That's good.
You don't have to claim you're sick.
Oh, thank you.
You make it. Yeah.
Okay, great idea.
Yeah.
Not going to happen because I get all schwätzy. But, Joe, let's talk about what we learned from Kevin Warsh today that affects investors the most.
Well, I think the first thing is that we need to understand how the Fed is going to change relative to the several years that we've had Powell in the seat. And I think he made it clear, and I think it's good leadership, by the way, that the less information that he can get. Now, we would like more information. I'd rather him give us guidance. I'd rather him do all those things. But the less information that he actually gives us, the less he specifically communicates about what he thinks is going to happen in the future, or what the plots are, et cetera, it gives him greater flexibility to act when he needs to act. And sometimes when you talk too much about a specific topic or whatever it might be, you pigeonhole yourself a little bit, and you lock yourself a little bit in a corner. He doing it this way, I think, allows him greater flexibility. And I think his thoughts in terms of, you know, his five task force and what he wants to work on, how he wants to focus on it, is all good.
Okay, but I think it's very important to point out that some of the things that he has said in the past, like during his Senate confirmation hearing, there was back and forth with Senator Kennedy about what he had said in the past, what Kevin Warsh had said in the past about AI, which is the trade lately. And he had indicated that he felt that AI eventually would be deflationary, meaning it'll bring down inflation, but there's so much spending. He was asked about that and kind of backtracked a little bit and said, we need way more data on what AI is going to do. Listen to how he put it.
With respect to AI and the growth of data centers and infrastructure around it, we're counting the demand side, and it is no doubt showing up in GDP figures. We can be less certain when we infer the timing and extent of the growth in the supply side. It may well be an intuition the supply side is going to expand, but it'll take longer.
That has been the trade, Joe. But are you starting to see any hairline fractures?
As far as the AI piece goes, I mean, I truly believe that it's going to have the greatest impact on productivity for our economy and our GDP than we've ever seen.
I mean, Warsh said it was the greatest change in the economy in his adult life.
And with that, it could very well wind up deflationary. I think that's part of the reason why he explained, I want to do a better job with the balance sheet, I want to make some changes. When he was interviewing with Trump, that he could come up with a path toward easing. If Trump couldn't see that, I don't think Trump would have given him the job.
Well,
that doesn't mean he's going to ease now, and I think he is his own man. But he is making a big bet on productivity and AI.
Really quickly, we noticed that a week ago, Masayoshi Son, who runs SoftBank, had tried to get a bank loan by using his OpenAI shares. OpenAI is not public just yet. He wanted a $10 billion loan against those shares. The bank said no. He lowered it to $6 billion in ask, and the bank still said no. What does that tell you, you having been bigwig at Merrill Lynch?
Well, I think that it's critical, I think, for real leadership within the banking world to be able to balance their greed or the desire for profits and growth with their fear or anxiety in terms of what can happen. When you look at this situation here, OpenAI is a private company. Usually you do this with public stocks that are very, very liquid. He also has an intensely concentrated position in OpenAI. That's not a good thing. And so when you look at it that way, you err on the side of discretion, and I would not give him the loan either.
Interesting. All right, so maybe banks are getting a little bit more religion and becoming more conservative when it comes to AI lending. Joe Moglia, thank you so much.